just came on. Where did Waj go? We don't know, dear friends. Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie, and we are waiting on Waj. I don't know what just happened, friends. Hold 1 second. Oh, okay. Okay. Waj just had a computer glitch. He is coming. Don't you worry. We are going to get into the show today. Folks, this week has been absolutely insane. We can start there. I know that everyone is exhausted, but we have made it to Friday. So let's celebrate good like small things, which is that we made it to Friday. So happy Friday to all of you. So here's the thing. I don't know how much energy we can muster over the next several years, because the fact that it has only been, I don't know, 11 days since Donald Trump has been president. It has been 11 days, is absolutely wild to me. Because it feels like it has been 87 days, and that we are living in dog years. And I mean, 87 days. No, that's not even right. Do you know why it feels so like it's been so long? Because it's been 9 years and 11 days. Like, we never got rid of Donald Trump. That's the problem, is that even though we voted him out in 2020, which also, can you believe, was 5 years ago? We voted him out in 2020, and he never went away. Most former presidents go away. Here you are.
It was the computer's now racist also and against DEI. Kick me out, StreamYard.
So, Waj, I was just saying, why does it feel it's only been 11 days, right, since Donald Trump has been president? But the fact is that it's actually been 9 years and 11 days. That, unlike other presidents who are voted out, they go away. Donald Trump never went away. So that's why we feel so exhausted, because it's not just 11 days, it's 9 years and 11 days.
Donald Trump is the herpes of American presidents. He always flares up. And the reason why he'll stick around is because what he represents to me, Danielle, is the just open, exuberant cruelty, rage, grievance, and self-destructive power of white supremacy, which is part and parcel of America. Not just white supremacy, also selfishness and greed. And it's just a new manifestation, right? Like every generation has its own pharaoh. And we have Donald Trump. And it got to a crescendo, a breaking point, because here we were in the last, like you said, 10, 15 years where, hey, we had the first black president. Hey, women were getting leadership roles. Hey, people marched, like the biggest march in U.S. history, and also international march, folks, the George Floyd protests, the biggest march in U.S. history, where people are like, maybe innocent black people shouldn't be killed and shot. And maybe women, shouldn't be like, I don't know, assaulted and raped. And maybe, the Muslim ban is a bad thing. And then right at that moment where we had this opportunity for America to finally flex and stretch and expand and be the America it sells itself to the world, what did America say?
Nope.
Not on my watch. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and now Donald Trump. Look, Donald Trump came after who? Barack Obama. Think about it, Danielle, in the long scope of U.S. history, isn't this part of the arc of U.S. history? Every time we try to get forward, they chokehold us back. And Donald Trump is the manifestation, and this type of exhaustion that you talked about. I think it goes back even because I was thinking about this, Danielle, because a lot of these MAGA folks, they make fun of black women. I'm sure you've heard this. Well, they always make fun of black women, but everyone who's watching, recall where black women for many years have been saying, I'm tired. I'm just tired. And then MAGA, like 3 or 4 years ago, I don't know if you saw, they used to like mock black women. Oh, I'm tired. And everyone else is like, why are black women so tired? And I think now the rest of America is like, oh, this is why black women are tired, because they've had to put up with this forever. And now this is just our present reality. And it's only been 11 days and people are tapping out.
And like, here's the thing, and I'm sorry, folks, but I must put up this face because I want folks to also understand that while this has been 11 days and we've been exhausted, we've also seen what MAGA's greatest weakness is, which is their fragility. We are watching as these grown men whine and cry about how diversity, equity, and inclusion has somehow harmed them because you see their mediocrity isn't celebrated in the same way that it was because we've seen, that they're not that talented, that they're not that smart, and that they don't know how to compete with other people. So as a way not to have to compete with other people, they create roadblocks and obstacles and sign a slew of executive orders to try and deny people access. Because if you were really great, it wouldn't matter if you put a bunch of hurdles in people's way, because you would be right flying over everyone, moving so quickly past them. The fact that you can't manage, right, to compete is what showcases to the world just how fucking inept they are. And that's the thing that they don't like. This is the thing that folks, when I say get behind, like what bullshit that they are stirring up on the surface, like this is what it is.
It's fragility, grievance, an inability to outwardly admit that they don't have the right stuff, that the master race might not be so masterful, that, oh no, if you give an equal playing field and you allow us darkies finally to have a chance, an equal opportunity to compete with you, maybe we can run circles around you. Maybe there could be a woman who could do your job better. Maybe there's a black immigrant from Haiti who's a better engineer. Maybe there's a brown guy named Wajahat who could go on TV and debate you. Oh no, this makes me feel fragile. This invades my safe space. So I have to shut down this safe space, engage in perpetual whine. Like they whine all the time, Danielle. They whine all the time.
God.
And like the thing is, this is like, okay, if your life was really hard, if you're like a poor white dude in the trailer trash and got fentanyl addictions, I get it. But we've talked about this on the show. Have you noticed the wealthiest, most privileged white men whom God has given everything are always whining? Donald Trump, what, like, bro, you were born on third base. Your dad gave you hundreds of $millions, which you squandered away. You have failed up in life. David Sachs, you're a South African billionaire who's now the czar of AI. Why are you so pissed off? Peter Thiel, another freak billionaire, pissed off. JD Vance, you made millions of dollars groomed by Peter Thiel in Wall Street. Why are you so friggin' Elon Musk? You're the richest man on earth, bro. Go buy an island. I don't know, build rockets there. Like, just be happy. Like, why are you so miserable? They're all miserable. Have you noticed the other guy, Bill Ackman, billionaire, just a troll on Twitter. I'm like, bro, you're a billionaire. Get off Twitter. Enjoy your life. Go visit a country. But it's the fragility.
That is, but you just hit the nail on the head, Waj, when you said, go enjoy your life. What joy do these people have? They literally have none. They just whine, complain, beleaguer how harmed they have been, how hard their lives are. And you're just like, at this point, I'm like, you won the election. You won this big mandate that you keep saying, go fucking do something. But the only thing that Donald Trump has been doing since November 5th is complaining.
That's right. It's Festivus. I call it perpetual Festivus. In Seinfeld, Festivus was one day. For Donald, it's freaking every day. And case in point, I'm hearing, this plane crash that happened 2 days ago, folks. I go out of DCA all the time. It's 15 minutes away from my home. And I was up at night and we saw that crash. And I was on a WhatsApp group with my friends, and
Mm.
we know someone. There's a 1 degree of separation of a person that we know. I'm sure you've seen that horrifying clip of that young man who said, "Oh, I'm waiting for my wife. I didn't get a text back from her." Like, there's a 1 degree of Muslim separation. And then yesterday, the county school district sent us an email saying that there were 3 kids from our county schools on that plane, 6 parents, 2 of them who are staffers working in the county school district.
Oh
My son came
God.
yesterday and told me that also. So this is literally in my backyard. Now,
Oh.
for those who don't know the facts, and facts matter, there was an American airline commercial plane that collided with a Black Hawk helicopter. This does not happen, folks. This is exceedingly rare. In the fact, like, the last time there was such a deadly crash was 2001, and the last time there was a mistake like this was 2013, when a plane that was taking off its wing hit the seawall and crashed.
Yep.
This is how rare it is. Okay, so I just want people to know this. This is not something that just happens. All right, everyone died, no survivors. Both of them collided. They went in the Potomac River. Now, what we found out yesterday and what we found out today was yesterday, the job of 2 people was being
Yep.
done by 1 person. There was one person going between both air towers. All right, there you go. CNN breaking news. And just today, clues. New York Times just released clues from DC plane crash renew concerns about air safety lapses. Now, let's give you a truth sandwich. Before we talk about Donald Trump's grievances, these are the facts. In the last 11 days, Donald Trump, in his infinite genius, Danielle, decides to listen to President Musk, forces out the FAA chief, all right, fires the heads of TSA, fires the Coast Guard, guts a key aviation safety advisory committee, does a hiring freeze, Danielle, on, wait for it, air traffic controller. So while this was happening, on the FAA website, they had all these key positions they were looking for, like, hey, come by and, like, apply. You know what was at the top of what they were looking for? FAA chief. We did not have an FAA chief or a TSA head, Danielle, while this was happening.
No. And, like, just to be clear, right? Like, all of the things that Waj is saying, this is one of the first acts that Donald Trump did. But as he stands before the American people, has the audacity to come out and again use the distraction of diversity, equity, and inclusion being the reason for the crash, not the fact that he came in and fired, right, people that are responsible for this very important department, not the fact that he got rid of the committee, right, which is again responsible for overseeing safety of our airways. Not to mention, again, Waj, why don't we have an FAA administrator? Oh, that's right. Because of Elon Musk, because they were suing SpaceX for not following the law, right? And because who gonna check me? I'm the richest man in the world. I got you fired. And now plane crashes. But to distract from their blatant incompetence, whose fault is it? The diversity boogeyman.
And
That's
also,
whose fault it is.
Tara, great point, Tara. I highlighted your comment. The new head of transportation, replacing Pete Buttigieg, is Sean Duffy. Danielle and I will remember Sean Duffy as a castmate on Real World. And then he married another Real World member, Rachel, who was from the San Francisco cast. He is now the head of transportation. And you're right. Once he took over, he said, despite the warnings, despite they already said DCA is very congested, you know what he said, Danielle? More flights, more flights. So already there's a problem. Instead of fixing the problem, they exacerbate the problem. And then, Danielle, I'll be generous. Okay, suppose you want to clean house. You want to get a new FAA chief. You want to get some new air traffic controllers. You want to get a new TSA head. Fine. Competent, genius people, you know what they do? Smart people with common sense. They'll say, okay, I have a great FAA chief lined up. You're fired, you're in. TSA chief, you're out, you're in. I would staff them. I would much rather, Danielle, have had a somewhat competent individual there than nobody. There was nobody there. I'm stressing this again and again and again, Danielle, because several reasons. Once we play some Trump clips, which I know will make you gag, but we have to. Once we hear his reasoning, where he said he wants, natural geniuses, that's what he said in his press conference. You see the hypocrisy. You see the juxtaposition between the world's worst mediocre white men who failed up due to affirmative action, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, Fox host, Sean Duffy, reality TV star, Secretary of Transportation, Donald Trump, reality TV star, with a straight face saying natural geniuses. Then they say common sense, even though they're the ones who gutted it. And the third reason why I want to bring this up is because if this happened under Biden's watch, this would be news for 4 years. Republicans would launch investigations, commissions, 24/7, incompetence. You killed Americans. You killed 14 members, up-and-coming members of the U.S. figure skating team. You killed kids. This is on you. And Democrats, will they muster up a fight? Will they muster up some talking points? Let's see. Sorry for my rant, but that's why I'm just focused on this, because if the shoe was on the other foot, guys, they would not hear the end of this for 2 years. They would get people elected off this, Danielle.
But here's where we are.
Thank you.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator, in this case, acting FAA administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over everything.
Elevating competence over everything else. We traded in America, a Rhodes Scholar who is Pete Buttigieg as our Department of Transportation Secretary for a guy whose claim to fame is MTV's Road Rules. You want to talk about competency? I tell you that
the shamelessness, Danielle, the shamelessness.
I just, right before we got on air, I posted a short where I said, do not let undereducated, mediocre white men talk to you, anyone, about fucking merit. They couldn't get a job with the resumes that they have without their daddy's help or money at Walmart as a checkout person. And no shade to people at Walmart, but there are different skill levels for everything, and they don't have the fucking basics.
Look at Donald. I mean, people forget this guy was born on third base and thinks he actually hit a triple. He has failed up in life. He squandered his daddy, his racist daddy, left him what was it, $300 million? He squandered it 6 times bankruptcy. How do you bankrupt a casino? Donald Trump found a way, right? This is a guy who's a convicted criminal. It was his whiteness, his wealth, and his fame that has protected him throughout his entire life, and the Supreme Court that kept him out of jail. He is literally the poster boy of mediocrity. He is the poster boy of affirmative action for rich white men. And look at Pete Hegseth at the press conference. They did a press conference for those who haven't followed news. So there was the crash, the press conference. In the press conference, you just have to be you have to portray yourself as a decent human being. You have to play a decent human being. All 3 of these people are actors. Sean Duffy is an actor. Pete Hegseth's an actor. Donald Trump is an actor.
Yep.
They couldn't even act. This is what you say. It's a tragedy. Our hearts go out. It's just very painful. There were 14 U.S. Figure skaters, the young up and coming folks. We're doing an investigation. We will find out more, and we will let you know. For now, thoughts and prayers. Thank you very much. That's it. Peace. And then you leave. Instead, Pete Hegseth, right next to Donald Trump at that press conference, talks about this guy, Pete Hegseth. This is what infuriates me. Pete Hegseth, sexual abuser, according to his own mom. His own mom said it. Man who paid off a woman $50,000 and made her sign an NDA for sexual abuse allegations, alcoholic, allegedly, kicked off and or forced to resign from 2 nonprofits due to economic malpractice. Okay. He has an 04 rank. The last Secretary of Defense has an 010 rank, the highest of the high. You know who that was? A black man. Lloyd Austin had to be an 010 4-star general for Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, to come in and be the Secretary of Defense. And he then blamed, wait for it, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and said we need the best people to be in defense and the best people to be in security and transportation. He said it with a straight face, Danielle.
And the fact to me is that, again, reporters do not turn around and say, so speaking of the best people, what qualified you to become Secretary of Defense? What qualified you, Sean Duffy, to become the Secretary of Transportation? They have no qualifications and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And unfortunately, the 67 lives that were just lost to this tragic event that was avoidable, there will be more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There will be more. And I don't care how many times they want to blame diversity, equity, and inclusion for the fact that their white male incompetence is going to cost people their lives. Not to mention the fact that on Capitol Hill this week was RFK Jr. talking about the fact that white people and black people shouldn't be receiving the same vaccinations.
Can you talk about that for us? It's very important. Angela also Brooks brought up a comment that he made. And Danielle, go for it, because we should spend a little bit of time on it, because it's straight Nazi science and eugenics that RFK doubled down on just yesterday at the hearing.
At the hearing, Senator Alsbrooks asked RFK Jr. about an excerpt from his book where he said that black people have apparently special antibodies that are not needed for vaccines. So there are certain vaccines that white people and black people should be on, quote unquote, different schedules for.
Yeah.
Because black people don't actually need them because of our super DNA antibodies or what have you. So when Senator Alsbrook asked, so what vaccination schedule should I have been on for COVID?
She straight up said that. Yep.
So I shouldn't have received. And she's like, do you understand that in this position as Secretary of Health and Human Services, that parents are going to be listening to you and believing what it is that you say? You are dangerous. The things that you think are dangerous. And for that reason, I will be voting no.
That is, folks, Nazi science. And furthermore, what's very important about this is it shows the hidden bias and racism that still exists in the medical system. My wife, who's a doctor, we should actually interview my wife one time. She introduced, wait for it, the diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum for first-year medical students to talk about, latent discrimination and the type of views that people have against black folks. And it was not existing in Georgetown until my wife and a few other people brought it. And now it's part and parcel of the curriculum for first-year students. And specifically, what my wife talks about and also her colleagues talk about is the fact that many of our medical professionals to this day, they believe that black people somehow have this superior strength. And as such, they do not need the pain meds. And when black women in particular are begging for pain medication, they're just whining and lying. And this is how Serena Williams, GOAT, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, almost died because they said, oh, she's fine. She's like, I'm bleeding. I don't think this is normal. Whatever. And this type of like hidden, blatant, unconscious discrimination, these stereotypes against black people, it plays out in real time. And overtly, it plays out through literally this Nazi eugenic science that, Black people are special. Who the teenager,
I
the
mean,
50-year-old teenager who was shot. Mike Brown. Remember Mike Brown? He was like Hulk Hogan. Oh, he's
Oh no. Remember this Mike Brown, remember Eric Gardner here in New York City. Multiple police officers around his neck, choking him to death on the street because he was selling loose cigarettes. But it was 4 white police officers against 1 black man. So when Waj says that this kind of racism, this kind of eugenics talk, this kind of Nazism that has been a part of our medical industry since the beginning, right? Our entire OBGYN care was created off of the mutilization and of black enslaved women. Right? So I want folks to understand that when these motherfuckers say that, oh, racist slavery didn't exist and that was an internship and no, there were no contributions to history, so we don't have to celebrate Black history, blah, blah, blah. All of these things play out in front of our faces. They don't come from nowhere.
That's right.
Right? So when police officers, oh, I feared for my life from the big, scary black person.
Hulk Hogan teenager.
Right? That, oh, Trayvon Martin, oh my God, he picked me up and threw me. Like, it comes from this frame of thinking that RFK Jr., who is moments away of becoming the Secretary of Health and Human Services, believes and will reintroduce after generations of trying to erase this thinking, which literally, as Waj just explained, almost had Serena Williams killed in hospital. Because guess what, folks? 1 in 5 black women giving birth die in the richest country in the world.
And there's a great book that if you really want to know the history of this, it was a fantastic book, came out about 20 years ago, 19 years ago, still relevant. Medical Apartheid. It's Medical Apartheid, the dark history of medical experimentation on Black Americans from colonial times to the present. It's written by Harriet Washington in 2007. It talks about exactly what Danielle just said, is how they experimented on Black people. And Nazis learned, wait for it, from American segregation. They're like, ooh, these people have perfected it. Yeah, let's learn from that. So this is the type of stuff that RFK speaking about. There's a recurring theme in today's show: mediocre, rich, unqualified white men who are elevated to positions of power. He's going to get the votes. Unfortunately, it's going to be one of the most dangerous cabinet picks. An anti-vaxxer, completely unqualified, a person whose advice apparently led to the deaths of many children in Samoa from measles, and a person who, in addition to promoting this eugenics stuff, which he doubled down on yesterday, also promoted anti-Semitic conspiracies that said that the COVID virus somehow was Jews, Ashkenazi Jews were shielded from the COVID virus. And we have him on video saying that. So we see racism, we see white supremacy, we see grievance, we see rage. And now what we see, and I'm glad we're talking about this, Danielle, is because there were 2 big stories that came out this week that have kind of gone shoved to the side because Stephen Miller and Donald Trump are flooding the zone with shit. But it's in part and parcel of this white supremacy project. Guantanamo Bay is back in the news. And Danielle and I are old enough that we remember Guantanamo Bay from the War on Terror. And we remember those horrific scenes where they just picked up all those brown folks and they had them handcuffed, in a makeshift, camp with hoods over their head in the orange flags. You remember that? And then we found out some of these people were detained without due process for years, even though U.S. government knew, oops, we cast a wide net and we got some innocent brown folks, but it'll make us look weak if we release these innocent brown folks. So we'll keep them there for like 15 years, 16 years. That Guantanamo is back in the news, Danielle. Can you tell us why?
Because Trump has directed Guantanamo Bay to be prepared to host, look at this fucking headline, because it's a party, to host up to 30,000 migrants. So if this sounds eerily like a concentration camp, it's because it is. And don't fool yourself into thinking that it's not. That, oh, well, he didn't say concentration camp. They're calling it a detention center. But this place, Guantanamo Bay, with this horrible history, right? They are getting ready to build a facility to house 30,000 migrants who they are calling the most dangerous criminals based on whose thoughts and background checks? Theirs, these white supremacists? You mean these dangerous people that they're pulling out of churches and hospitals and schools that they're going to? So I talked about this week, Waj, on the Danielle Moodie show, where I said, do you know the industry whose stocks are going through the roof right now?
Was on day one, as soon as Trump was elected. I know this one. As soon as Trump was elected, the two biggest stocks that went up were of the private prison companies. I don't know the names. There was two private prison companies and what skyrocketed.
Skyrocketed, right? Because they do migrant detention centers and they do prisons. And so it happened the first time that Donald Trump was elected, that those stocks went through the roof, because under both Biden and Obama, those numbers were going down. Because guess what? They were deporting people, right? But we were finding different ways to handle the overwhelm that this country has been in. And I'm not saying that it hasn't been overwhelmed. There have been times when it has been. But the stocks were going down. These are people that donated to Donald Trump's campaigns, his donors, his slush fund inauguration. And now they're making money again.
It's good money too. And this let's just keep this on this slide, because I think words matter. And I'm glad you brought up hosts, because I was also really annoyed by this. They're not hosting anyone, right? And they're not really even deporting. You know what a more correct word is? Abducting. Because Tom Homan, who was the czar of the border czar, openly said on 60 Minutes, like, well, you're going to separate families. No, we're not. We're also going to take the kids. The citizen children? Yes. So they're going to be abducting citizen children. His words, not mine. He said you're going to go after the kids who are citizens. They're trying to end birthright citizenship thanks to a Pakistani American judge. Oh, I love it so much. He slapped him down. So at least there's a 14-day stay on that unconstitutional order. They're going after all black and brown folks. They're going after people who look like trouble. That's what Donald Trump said. Well, who looks like trouble? Apparently on the Family Guy chart, it's people who have my skin color and Danielle's skin color. This has included a U.S. veteran citizen who was picked up in a raid in Jersey. So all the Latino men who voted for Donald Trump, gonna be rough. And these 30,000 migrants, as we know now, thanks to Democrats who helped give Donald Trump his first victory, Lake and Riley Act, is gonna include immigrants who simply have been charged with, suspected of, not convicted, of minor crimes such as shoplifting. So you'll have potentially children, grandmas, people who might have shoplifted, might not have shoplifted, they're not convicted, maybe convicted criminals. And then what we found out, Danielle, just to show the reversal of it all, we see a current theme here. Donald Trump pardoned January 6th insurrectionists.
Yep.
And now we know some of the people that he pardoned who committed violence against cops also have an extensive criminal history of rape, domestic assault, robbery, violence. Literally, they're releasing violent traitors to the streets and picking up innocent brown and black people who look like trouble, sending them to Guantanamo, which is a horror show. And the images are seared in the mind of my generation, people who are my age and up, as one of America's enduring sins of the 21st century. And they're doing it with a smile on their face saying, hey, 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 we're prepared to host 30,000 migrants. And guess what? Don't worry about the costs. Don't worry how much it'll taxpayer dollars. We don't worry about that. We'll take care of it. It'll cost a lot. And we're going to give the money to our buddies in private prisons. But those people who need Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security, don't worry about that. We're getting these immigrants off the streets. We still don't have a budget for this, Danielle. We still don't know how much this will cost.
But Donald Trump said it wasn't going to cost much.
Oh, okay.
Right, because before leaving office, I believe that Biden had signed for an expansion of a detention center for 400 people. Ask me how much that was going to cost.
How much?
Roughly like $163 million.
That's right. That's right.
And that to run these camps costs $13 million a year. Right. And so I just to put an even finer point on this. Why is it going to be in Guantanamo Bay? One may wonder. Because it's out of the sight of American citizens and the law
That's right.
of this country. And so much in the way in Donald Trump's first administration, where people were denied, the press and as well as members of Congress were denied access.
That's right.
To the insides of these facilities to ensure that they were treating these people, children in many instances, within the confines of the law. Remember, this administration, the first time around, was sued for not providing soap and toothpaste and blankets to these migrants, right? So why put them in some makeshift facility outside of the country? Because you're out of sight. And when you're out of sight, you are out of mind.
And also a nebulous legal terrain, right? Because it's going to, yes, we administer it, but it's not in America and and so you could do what you want. You could do what you want with these children. And I don't think people have, before we move on to this attack on education, Danielle, I don't think people have realized, because I was talking to Danielle about this. I'm curious in our comment section. Thank you all for watching us, for coming back, for commenting. We have really smart viewers. I told Danielle that I've noticed that now that we're officially like 11 days in, but the election was 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. What happened yesterday was the first crack that I saw in some of these folks who either voted for Trump or didn't vote for Biden, right? They're like, oh, shoot, I think this is not good. I can't believe he was so cruel. And gosh, why blame DEI? Just be decent. Oh, my gosh. And, I didn't know that he fired the TSA head. And, but they still haven't gone around to say, like, they're still saying, like, oh, Biden was bad, blah, blah. But, like, pride, human pride. But once they start getting abuelas and abuelitas, once they start getting like kids, once RFK gets in and you see a spike in bird flu, folks, people haven't followed this. Kansas has a record number of TB cases.
Yep.
Bird flu now has gone from birds to other animals, and there's been a human to human transmission. Mm-hmm. There's already been one death. COVID is still around. Mm-hmm. Measles is coming back. Mm-hmm. Polio's coming back. Whooping cough's coming back. Kids, their vaccination rates have gone down thanks to right-wing anti-vax conspiracies. And RFK is going to be the next head. And we already saw the incompetence cause this one disaster. So just fast forward 6 months, Danielle. What do you think is going to happen?
Mass death? Here's what I'm going to say, folks. Your health is your responsibility at this point moving forward, because I don't trust the water with this man who doesn't believe in fluoride, which prevents waterborne diseases, doesn't believe in vaccines, doesn't believe that Black people apparently can't get sick. And this is our future. So when we've been talking about this and saying what would happen if Donald Trump became president again, that it was not going to be like 1.0, that it was going to be worse, because why? They spent 4 years concocting Project 2025, and every executive order that is coming out is from Project 2025. But Democrats are where, Waj? Do you know? Have you
They're
seen anybody?
begging Chuck Schumer. Apparently, there was a conference call, like it was the Democratic governors, I think 2 days ago, were begging Schumer to actually fight. And Chuck Schumer came out of the crypt, rambled about talking about arousal, and then went back to sleep. Did you hear that quote of his? People are aroused. There are people who are so. You didn't hear this arousal quote? That's how we ended his thing with. Oh, this was great. Chuck, you did see this? Oh, this is classic.
Oh,
He ends his thing by saying, Americans are really aroused. People are aroused. Trump has aroused the American people. And then he ended his conference. People like, what the are you talking about? True story, folks. So that's where Democratic leadership is. They could have had Jasmine Crockett. They chose 71-year-old Debbie Dingell. They could have had AOC. They chose 74-year-old Jerry Connolly. And they could choose anybody else, but they got Schumer there and Durbin, folks. But as we move on, this is, our last segment of today. This is a big one, and I care about education. I'm not a doctor, but I start off as a writer. I'm still a writer. Arts, humanities, education. That's where I try to see where I can help people. My wife's in medicine. She tries to do healthcare. Danielle was an educator. We have been trying to warn people on this show.
Yep.
All of these themes go back, right? The culture wars started not with abortion or Roe v. Wade. That was something that they realized they can win off of in the 70s. It started in 1954 with Brown versus Board of Education, where the Supreme Court officially said that segregation is unconstitutional in public schools. Overnight, it's not like the South said, let's desegregate. They had to send the National Guard to Arkansas to protect young Black girls whose crime it was, I'm putting crime in quotation marks, Danielle, was to simply go to school. If you want to see America, look at the photos of these young Black girls being escorted by the National Guard trying to go into school, and look at those white men and women spitting at them and yelling in the background. Okay, this was, and this always has been, the site of the cultural grievance of white supremacy. They were pissed off that they actually have to accommodate Black and brown students. They are pissed off that they have to actually learn about science and about culture and about gender in public schools. Also, teachers, and Danielle will say this because she's a teacher, teachers union, a big threat to Republicans because a lot of them vote Democrat. And also, speaking about money, they want to dismantle the public education system and replace it with charter schools and private schools. And so, if you remember, where all this attack on diversity, equity, inclusion, CRT started right here in my backyard in Virginia, Loudoun County was ground zero. We kept saying on this show, folks, that is the testing ground for the national strategy. Fast forward 3 years, that's the national strategy. And Danielle, tell us about this huge executive order that I wish more people would talk about.
So here we are. Trump signed sweeping executive orders that overhaul the U.S. education system. Trump signed several sweeping executive orders on Wednesday, primarily by removing so-called progressive ideologies from schools' hallways and classrooms. The executive order comes as Trump has railed against the U.S. education system, accusing it of indoctrinating children in radical, anti-American, racist, and gender ideologies. However, critics swiftly condemned the executive orders as being an attack on LGBTQ students and on the accurate teaching of U.S. history, specifically concerning slavery and racial injustice. So, where are we? We are at a place where this administration is hell-bent on repealing the 20th century, putting white men back in their rightful positions of power, as if you looked at any Fortune 500 companies, all white men. You look at the 90% of pilots in this country, white men.
Yep.
We are talking about 60 years of incremental progress that has been made for every other group other than white men, and they can't fucking handle it and manage. And so education, as Waj beautifully laid out, has always been the battleground in this country for racism. Because if you teach children the truth, if they grow up side by side with children who don't look like them, don't pray like them, it is less likely that they are going to grow up to hate them.
Mm.
And as you are seeing, kids develop critical thinking and ask more questions, and the younger generations, what's happening is that these white people's kids, right, Gen Z, Gen Beta, Alpha, that is all coming, are a lot more conscious and a lot more connected.
That's right.
Right? To diversity, equity, and inclusion. And here's the thing I want folks to understand. Stop using DEI, because their purpose is to erase DEI. Let us call it what it is that they are working overtime to get rid of. They are working to get rid of diversity. They are working to get rid of equity, and they are working to get rid of inclusion. And let them say those names, as opposed to just saying DEI, DEI. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
Words
and
matter.
you could take it a step further. And well, Piers Morgan invited me on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think he was to gang up on me. I might do that. I might ask him, because they're against DEI, but I want to ask him, so you're against diversity, you're against equity, you're against inclusion, and you're pro-segregation? Because DEI was put in place after segregation ended. So are you pro-segregation or against segregation? Because I'm against segregation, right? And also, another thing about diversity, equity, inclusion is I want them just to be honest. Just drop the facade. You have all the power. You have the presidency, you have the House, you have the Senate, you have the Supreme Court. You also have media. It seems to me, and it's clear to women, Black people, and people of color, that whenever they say DEI, what they really mean is women, Black people, people of color. So just say it. Because for some strange reason, the Boeing aircrafts, they blamed Black pilots, which was nonsense. The Francis Scott Key Bridge that went down in Maryland, they blame DEI. It makes no sense. Right now, they blame DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. When it came to the terrorist attack in New Orleans, what did they say? Remember?
Yep.
DEI. But when you found out that the white man who was a Trump supporter who was radicalized and blew up his Cybertruck, guess what? They didn't mention DEI. When it comes to these, the pilot, once they find out the pilot, and this poor pilot, he also died at American Airlines. Once they found out it was a white man, they scaled it back. Oh, they were waiting, Danielle. Oh, they wanted so bad that pilot to be a Black trans woman. Oh, they were praying. They were praying to Jesus that it was a Black trans woman. It wasn't. It was a white man.
It's a probability of the pilot.
Like, please, holding, please.
First of all, women only make up 3% of pilots. Also, Black women only make up 1% of the pilots. So a Black trans woman is like 0.001%.
Can it be the one? And for the Black Hawk helicopters, the three passengers / pilots were 2 men and 1 woman. Oh, so if it was 2 women, you better believe it, because it was 2 men. So what they're saying, and we should be honest about it, you're talking about Black people, you're talking about women, you're talking about people of color. Yep. Just say it. Say it with your chest out. And then also, are you against diversity, equity, inclusion? Why are you against diversity, equity, inclusion? And also, do you want to go back to 1954? Are you pro-segregation or are you against segregation? These are the types of questions we should just get them on.
And this is what I'm saying. Stop following their line of fucking bullshit, because these are the questions. So if you're against diversity, equity, and inclusion, do you want to bring back segregation?
Yep, that's it.
If you are against diversity, equity, and inclusion, do you believe that women have no place in the workforce? If you are against diversity, equity, and inclusion, do you believe that people with disabilities should not be seen? If you are against diversity, these are the fucking questions.
Disabled veterans, white disabled veterans, by the way, folks, are included under DEI. All the white women who have benefited, DEI. So are you against white women benefiting? Are you against white women getting education? Of course, they'll say yes. Oh, did you see the DEI the quote unquote diversity, equity, inclusivity that Sean Duffy just did for trad wives? Did you see that today?
No.
So Sean Duffy, the real world guy who has like 9 kids, actually did do diversity, equity, and inclusivity, but for government employees with large families. That was a tip of the hat to the trad wives.
What?
Yeah. Well, side just today. Large families. Let me get it for you.
I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Trump administration trashes diversity, equity, and inclusion, then orders diversity, equity, and inclusion for trad wives. A transportation department member reveals a plan to, quote, give preference to communities with marriage and birth rates higher than the national average, end quote. I wasn't making this stuff up.
I am at a loss for words on that one. I'm at a loss for words. Oh, people are asking, please tell them what trad wives are.
Oh, trad wives. Okay, my bad. So the kids these days. So trad wives is a name now that has been kind of accepted by MAGA, traditional wife. And the role of the traditional wife is that she hates feminism and she believes that feminism has destroyed the marriage, and she doesn't like what feminists espouse. And there's honor and dignity in being a traditional wife who lives in the four corners of the home, and the wife's job is to be feminine, the man's job is to be masculine, and they want their men to be manly men, and they want to give birth to this manly man's child. So that is the trad wife, and the trad wife trend that has kind of taken off in the last couple of years. And they've also used social media and TikTok. You see them at home. Like SNL did a great skit where she's like, my husband wanted meat, so I killed our family cow, and I'm making, like, it's a great little scene. And they did, and there's a TikTok creator who's a trad wife. They basically did it on her. You see her at home, literally like killing a cow, making kebabs out of the cow. So now Sean Duffy, his partner, his wife is, wait for it, a real world star alum, Rachel Campos. And I don't know if you could Google this, Danielle. I think they have like 9 kids. So Sean Duffy, who's against diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the Trump administration, which is against diversity, equity, and inclusion, will have diversity, equity, and inclusion for communities with marriage and birth rates higher than the national average.
Yeah, it's
9 kids. Thank you for that community fact check.
Yeah, so folks, like, we're not making this shit up. And they told, and none of this, and I don't want folks to believe that any of this is coming out of thin air. This has been the plan all along. They have been organizing in broad daylight, right? They built an entire manifesto on white supremacy, on white nationalist beliefs, and on pseudo-Christian philosophy. And so I will say this. I did an interview that is up today for the New Abnormal with Jack Jenkins, talking about the religiosity inside of MAGA, and talking about what is another thing that is very terrifying to me. Waj, have you heard of patriot churches?
No.
Okay, we'll talk about that next week.
No, tell me what.
Patriot churches are basically moved outside of the evangelical church, which are espousing Donald Trump's beliefs and ideology as religion.
No
And they
way.
are popping
No
up.
way.
I am not kidding.
So,
and they are popping up all over the place. So when we said that this was a cult, right? This is the type of shit that we're talking about, where they believe that the Jesus that has been a part of Christianity, who is a loving, caring, open, and respectful God, they believe that that God is too woke, that Jesus and the teachings are too woke. So they are now creating these patriot churches with their vengeful, MAGAfied deity.
I Googled it while you were saying it because I was like, no way. Like it was tit for tat because I told you about the trad wives. You're like, and it was the first time I've seen you in like 2 years being like, excuse me. And I had to go Google search it to give you the exact quote. I Googled patriot churches. And I just want to quote Patriot Network. Our country is under attack by demonic principalities and powers. They are destroying the very cultural and religious fabric that makes the USA so special. Their evil agenda, I'm quoting them, folks, is cloaked in phrases such as end racism, redistribute wealth to the disadvantaged, and open borders. Their outright Marxist propaganda bombards us daily. Many Christians listen to cable news and no longer recognize lies from truth. The Bible tells us in the latter days, good and evil will be confused. Those days are here, and God wants us to resist tyranny wherever it exists. Patriot Network, Patriot Church.
You're welcome. Like,
Woo!
so folks, check out the interview that's out right now. The New Abnormal podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Because when I was alerted to that by Jack Jenkins from the Religion News Reporter, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah.
We're gonna trad wives, patriot churches. These are terms that folks will help you out, but you have to get used to it. This is going to be the new normal. It's not normal. These people are making a comeback. They have all the power and they want to take this country back. I always thought, I said when I first started democracyish, when I joined, I said they want to take the country back to 1953. Yep. I was wrong by a century. 1853. They want to go back to 1853. And wow, this hour went by quick.
I know. Wait, wow. We have to end with some good news. We have to end with some good news, folks, because it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose filled with acid, as the last 11 days have felt like. But there are incredible people that are still doing battle on our behalf. This is AG Tish James from New York, who you all know because she has been suing Donald Trump and has won. And Tish James, Attorney General James, leads coalition in suing to stop Trump administration from withholding essential federal funding. New Trump administration policy, this is the one where they wanted to put a freeze on all federal grants and loans, blocking trillions in funding for health, education, law enforcement, disaster relief, and other essential state programs. Tish James leading the charge. I had the opportunity to speak with Tish recently, and she said, "Oh, we're ready."
Oh, yep. That's what she said.
We are ready.
Even off the record, she said that to people in fundraisers, meeting folks. She goes, nope, we're going to resist. And there's attorney generals like her. There's attorney generals like her and others who are resisting. There's nonprofits who are resisting, local communities who are resisting. And we offer a resistance. It's almost 1,700 people. We got more and more folks. We didn't want to go an hour, but we were just on a roll. You all stuck with us. As I've said before, as we end this, please, if you can right now, click that thumbs up, subscribe to Danielle. Danielle, how many people do you have now?
We are at, I think, 12.3 thousand. Trying to get to 13 by early next week. So
get her to 15. And also all your donations, those tips, they go a long way. They're called super donors. If you look down on your screen right now, if you look all the way to the right, you see a circle with a ... on it. You click that and there's a heart with a $sign. That's how you become a tipper. So the $1.99, the $20, thank you all, goes a long way. And then sharing it goes a long way. We started this grassroots. We really appreciate it. We're going to need each other more than ever. And thank you for sticking with us.
Thank you for listening to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat.
And we will be back on Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern, if in fact we have a country left. Inshallah. Thank you, friends.